Hey, Marty speaking.
Hey, Marty, this is Hibbs. How's it going?
Hibbs, what's going on, man?
Just interesting predicament. I have a buddy that wants to take me backcountry skiing, and I don't know that much about it. And I know you run a guiding company, so I kind of want to ask you a few questions if you don't mind.
Finally, you're getting into backcountry skiing. I'm so stoked to have this convo, man. There's a bunch to dive into. So what's on your mind?
I mean, I guess first and foremost, it might sound kind of funny, but like, what is backcountry skiing?
Well, that's like the funniest thing, right? Because it's like a lot of us, pretty much everyone learns in a ski resort where it's like confined by a boundary. But backcountry skiing is, I mean, exactly that. It's outside of backcountry. So it's outside of the confined spaces of a ski resort. What I like to think about it, too, it's like we call it backcountry skiing, but it's kind of just skiing. Backcountry skiing is where skiing came from as a necessity to move through the mountains on snow. I guess it's just like walking to earn your turns. So, a lot of times we use ski lifts and then access the slack country, which is backcountry. But backcountry involves 2 feet in a heartbeat to get out there skiing. So Hibbs, what this means is you got to put skins on the bottom of your skis. You got to walk to the top of your run, rip those skins off, and ski on down. And usually, why we do this is it's untracked POW.
How would I go about learning to backcountry ski?
The easiest way is like in Canada, we have basically it's taking an avalanche course, kind of like your gateway. That's what sets the foundation before you go, and that's like the fundamentals of avalanches and terrain movement. Avalanche terrain recognition and rescue as well. So in Canada, we've got the avalanche skills training, AST level 1, and then in the States, it's the AIARE 1. And that's, usually that's about 2 days long. And how that works is it's like both in Canada and in the States, it's kind of like nationally recognized curriculum, but it's individual instructors that teach it. So everything like in the States, Graybird guides would teach an AIARE 1. I think there's a lot of AIARE 1s taught off most ski resorts that are like in the mountains. And in Canada, companies like Kapow, like mine, that would teach that. And honestly, Hibbs, like, even before you go out with a homie, we do recommend taking your like level 1 avalanche course, because that way you're coming with preparation. All these things are taught by industry professionals. So you're talking the same language as the crew when you head out with them. You actually can contribute to the team because it's uncontrolled environment. You've got to bring, everyone needs to bring something to the table. And so you can actually contribute. You're not just fully reliant on your buddy to come on out. But that being said, you can come on guided trips. Like you can go heli skiing, cat skiing, and join backcountry lodge trips if it's going guided. You don't need your AST or your AIARE 1 before you come on a guided trip. But I would before you go out with just a friend, either go on a guided trip or take an avalanche course is kind of the best start.
There's various levels of backcountry skiing, I'm hearing. You said something about skinning and then cats, and I don't think
Yeah.
you mean the furry kind.
But I mean, that's the thing that, I see a lot of times with mechanized guiding is people just think it's another ski resort. But when you go cat skiing and heli skiing, that's still backcountry skiing. You just have a guide showing you where to go, and a guide that's got the emergency response plan and, local knowledge of snow and terrain. Not all backcountry skiing involves skinning, but in the sake of what, most of us do, my group of friends don't pay for heli skiing all the time. We're the affordable way to backcountry is by skinning and by walking.
So take my heavy one, and then I can go out with this homie, is what you're saying.
Totally. And then the gear is a big part of that too, and that's what's taught in the avalanche course. Everyone needs the minimum avalanche safety gear of a shovel, a probe, and a transceiver. And that's even if you're leaving the ski area boundary off a ski hill. You need those three things. That's mandatory.
What's a probe and a transceiver?
Such a good question. So, there's devices like a cell phone that you can find your friends. So if it's like, if you're lost at a music festival or something like that, you can pop up lost your friends. And that works well on phones to find people. But the problem with if someone gets caught in an avalanche, technology like GPS or technology that's using your phone doesn't work through snow. So lucky for us, years ago, they found out this radio frequency that actually can get sent through the snowpack. So say you're buried, your phone's not going to send out a signal. We use avalanche transceivers that send out a signal to be picked up with other avalanche transceivers. And what it is, there's a specific frequency that it works on. And nowadays, we actually need 3 antenna transceivers. It started out with just 1 antenna, and it was kind of like trying to figure out Morse code to find someone that's buried, or listening to Morse code to find that someone's buried. Now the 3 antenna transceivers, it kind of hones into the other buried transceiver a lot more smoothly. So how that happens is if you're skiing with someone and someone's completely buried out of sight, you can actually hone in quite close to where that person's buried. So use the avalanche transceiver on search mode, brings you into where the person that's buried, and then you're roughly a small area, like there's someone below you. In order to pinpoint exactly where that person's buried, that's where the probe comes in. So we use 3-meter length probes. They're kind of like tent poles that go together, but actually comes together really quick. There's like a wire in the middle, so you can like throw it out, comes together. You got this 3-meter long stick, and essentially that's exactly what it is. It's a stick that probes the snow to pinpoint exactly where the person that's buried. And then from there, it's like the big meat of the rescue is shoveling someone out. But luckily, you know exactly where that person is because of the probe. We use metal shovels, avalanche shovels that got an extendable handle. And then at that point, if we have other people around, it's all people on deck, hands on deck, to shovel that buried person out of the snow. So as you can imagine, without that technology, like when my parents used to do this, they would ski with these like little ropes behind them. So if they thought they were in avalanche terrain, they'd throw these ropes behind them and ski on down, and there'd be like little arrows pointing on the rope. Or if someone was buried without the rope, like basically does that make sense? If someone's buried, you would go down the terrain, and if you see a rope at the top of the avalanche debris, you'd actually have to pick up the rope, and there'd be an arrow and a distance. So you'd actually have to shovel following that rope to where the person's buried. If someone didn't have that, what they used to do is if someone's buried in an avalanche, you just have to get a lot of people in a line instead of probe line and probe all the avalanche debris. So if you don't have an avalanche transceiver and buried in the snow, your chance of survival is hugely decreased. If you think about the reality, if you're caught in an avalanche, like try holding your breath for more than 10 minutes. The statistic is I don't know the true statistic now that it's summertime, we're talking about this, but after 10 minutes, your chance of survival decreases immensely. So, if someone does get caught in an avalanche, you got to react really quick. And that's why it's so important before going out with your homie that you're coming prepared to be the best partner that you can be.
Well, it's all some slightly intimidating stuff. So I guess the last thing I want to ask you is just maybe some like motivation for me to get through that Avi class is I guess like what's the perfect day like in the backcountry?
Well, in terms of why we're doing this, it's got a lot of fulfillment like anything in life, you put a little bit more work into it, it's a higher fulfillment. So there's no question it's intimidating. It's hard to find really good snow. But when it all comes together, like when you link up the perfect up track and you ski down that perfect north-facing slope, you've got a safe day, you're out in the mountains away from everyone else. I mean, there's nothing better than that. It's a unique experience. Every single day, it's different. And it's a fun challenge to work through terrain, communicate with the group, and link up that banger day. There's nothing quite like it, actually.
So you think I should go for it?
Of course, dude. It's so cool. Like, the reason why skis were created in the first place was to move through mountains more efficiently in the snow environment. And it's pretty incredible how far we can actually move on skis in the backcountry. Now with gear, like technical bindings that we can, walk efficiently with the boots. We've got, True Gear supplying perfect breathability and combining breathability with waterproofing. It's actually as comfortable as it's ever been. And we're so lucky with the information out there, both with taking an avalanche course And the avalanche forecasts we get in North America are incredible. Like, not only is it giving us, and they cover this in the avalanche courses, but I encourage everyone to start watching, even if you're brand new, the avalanche bulletins, where it gives you a hazard rating, and then these bulletins also dive into your avalanche problem. And so starting to read those bulletins so you can understand the languages that are used, like storm slab and hazard, and then you can start understanding what sorts of level of risk you're putting yourself out there with. So, Hibbs, dude, you got to get into backcountry. Everyone's doing it right now, and it is the most fulfilling way to find skiing, or most fulfilling thing you can do on skis.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. You have me convinced.
So, I mean, next steps is look out for an avalanche course. Jump in on a guided trip. Like both Kapow Guiding, Greyberg Guides. We're offering things on both sides of the border, and then follow the avalanche bulletin. And it's just like, understand going into this, it's not like taking a weekend course and you've got it all figured out. It's a lifetime of education, and it's kind of one of those things, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But there's a lot of fulfillment in it, and dude, you got to get into it.
I was like, yikes, man, that's aggressive.